The Mysterious Twins Part 12. Joy arrived at Sass's office. I just arrived from England to attend to a business deal and thought it wise to check on you. I wish to stay with you if your husband would permit me. Sassa nodded. The house is yours. My husband has no issue with my friends coming around. The Mysterious Twins Part 12.
The executive meeting.
The atmosphere in the room was tense as the boss addressed his assembled team. We were close to achieving our dream, he began, but we've discovered that Jack gave us a wrong document. Mr. Stevens, seated at the end of the table, reacted sharply. When did we become so careless that someone like Jack could toy with our guys so easily? The boss sighed, his frustration evident. The guys responsible are already being punished, but the issue is still under control. We are still on top of it. I have already sent my boys after Jack. The meeting was interrupted by the ringing of the boss's phone. Glancing at the screen, he announced, "I have a private call. Excuse me." He stepped out. "Innocent, how are you?" "Hello, sir. The Cheetahs project has been approved." Innocent's voice came through with urgency. "They have increased the projects to 70 countries where we would carry out the projects. They promise to add 10 more countries when we are done with the first half." "That's great. Wow, this is huge," the boss responded, a rare smile forming. Then his tone turned steely. "You and your boys must tidy up things because it's time to break out. We are taking over that company. We need either Jack's or Sass's signature on the documents for the final approval for execution, but he said he's at the airport, and we can't hijack the project without his signature," Innocent said. "My boys are after him already. Just remain focused on the assignment." "Okay, sir. We will do our best," Innocent replied. "I need more than your best," the boss growled. "We need to finalize and take over on time. Remember, I planted you in that company for this purpose. I need results, and we are running out of patience already." "Understood, sir," Innocent said, his voice firm. The boss ended the call and returned to his team, his voice stern. "I want all departments to work hard to ensure the success of this task. We have a major opportunity here, but we cannot afford any more mistakes. We need to tighten security and ensure that everything goes as planned." "Any questions?" the boss asked. The room remained silent, each member understanding the gravity of the situation. The boss nodded, satisfied. "Good, let's get to work."
At Jack's captor's base.
A masked lady entered the dark room and stared at Jack with cold, calculating eyes. "I have piled up dirty clothes in the utility room," she said, her voice dripping with menace. "Make sure they're well washed." "Like I said earlier, I prefer hand washing to the washing machine. Make me happy today if you don't want to miss your meal," she added. "One of my guys will be with you in case you need anything." Jack, trying to conceal his despair, stood up immediately, feigning happiness to start the day. As he stepped out of the room, one of the guards noticed his unusual countenance and said, "You look happy today. What's cooking?" Jack forced a smile. "I love being busy. I don't like it when I'm just idle, doing nothing. It makes me feel useless." The guard responded, "That's a good one. I'll inform the boss about it. We have a lot of things in this house that could keep you busy." Jack nodded. "Please, do your best to fix me up always. I would really appreciate it." The guard nodded back and led Jack to the back of the kitchen, where a mountain of dirty clothes awaited. Jack asked, concerned, "I thought I was to stay at the other side. Why am I washing here today?" The guard gave a scornful smile. "The boss strictly instructed me to ensure you wash behind the kitchen today, while the chef is busy cooking in the kitchen. That way, you can perceive the aroma of the food you might possibly miss. She wants you to understand what hunger is. Jack responded calmly, I will try my best to give my best to the boss. Please, plead on my behalf not to make me go hungry. The guard nodded. You have only 50 minutes to finish this task, and you must ensure they are well washed. Jack took a deep breath and began to wash, the aroma of the food wafting through the air, tormenting his senses. As he scrubbed the clothes, his mind raced, trying to come up with a plan to escape this nightmare. Suddenly, a thought struck him. He began to wash the clothes more meticulously, hoping to impress the guards and gain their trust. As the minutes ticked by, Jack's hands grew raw and his muscles ached, but he pressed on. The chef inside the kitchen occasionally glanced out, smirking at Jack's plight. The guard watched him closely, ensuring he didn't falter or attempt any tricks. Jack, you worked so impressive today. I think I would discuss with the boss to engage you on some chores inside the house as well. Jack smiled. Thanks so much. Please do your best to help me. I hate being locked up in that room and I promise not to disappoint you.
At Sass's house.
Sass's thoughts deepened as she stood outside, waiting. Her mind drifted back to the conversation she had with Zara at the hospital. She remembered how she wished she had never woken up from unconsciousness, and she wondered what Zara might be doing inside that made her lock everyone out. She imagined Zara's growing resentment and how dangerous it might be to keep close to her. Just then, her mom, Patricia, interrupted her thoughts. I think we must break this door to find out what's going on with Zara. I'm getting scared. Okay, Mom, let me call someone who can handle this, Sassa replied, trying to stay calm. A few minutes later, 3 guys arrived and forced the door open. Patricia and Sassa rushed inside to check on Zara and found her sleeping on the bed. Patricia tapped her gently. Zara, are you okay? Patricia asked, her voice filled with worrying. Zara slowly opened her eyes. Oh, Mom, you're back. Yes, we are, Sassa responded, her voice tense. We've been outside 4 hours now. We tried calling your number, but you weren't picking up. Zara, looking worried, said, I'm sorry, I wasn't aware of that. I have been sleeping all day. We had to force the door open. You got us scared, Patricia said, forcing a smile. Zara apologized to them. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Patricia forced a smile, trying to ease the tension. Sassa came home to freshen up, so she can resume back to the office. Zara, surprised, said, Sassa, I think you should have some more rest to allow you to recover fully. Sassa smiled. I'm fine now, sis. I'm very fine. As soon as Sassa and their mom left the room, Zara's mind started racing. Thank goodness. I almost got caught, she muttered to herself. She remembered the panic she felt when Sassa and Patricia arrived home unexpectedly, how she struggled to pull Detective Scott into her room and hide him in between her bed and the wardrobe. Overhearing their conversation about breaking the door, she laid on the bed, pretending to be asleep. Smiling, she whispered, You guys don't know how smart I am. I will prove that to you soon. Zara locked the door behind her and checked on Detective Scott, who was still lying unconscious. I'll teach you a lesson you won't forget in a hurry, she sneered. Spying on me was the biggest mistake you ever made, you dummy. Just then, Patricia knocked on the door. Zara quickly unlocked it and put on a concerned face. Mom, I thought you wanted to catch some sleep. Patricia smiled. Yes, I was supposed to, but I need you to get me some veggies. I want to prepare a special homemade meal for your sister. Zara immediately faked a sickly demeanor, Mom, I've been feeling feverish 4 days now. I didn't want to bother you with it, but any little stress seems to have a great impact on my health. Patricia looked concerned. Don't you think you need medical attention? No, Mom, I'll be fine. I just need rest, Zara replied, trying to sound convincing. As they were discussing, they heard a strange noise coming from the wardrobe. Both of them stared at each other. What's that? Patricia asked. Mom, I've been noticing rat movements in my room 4 days now. I don't know how they got in. I think we need to fumigate the house, Zara quickly improvised. Patricia bent down, trying to check under the couch. Zara's eyes widened in fear. Mom, get me some rat poison while you're at the market, she said hurriedly. Oh, that's true. I'll do just that. Let me quickly get to the market, Patricia replied, standing up and heading towards the door. As Patricia moved out, Zara locked the door behind her and checked on Scott, who was still lying on the floor. She pushed him closer to the bedside to hide him properly. I have a lot to do with you, dummy. Just keep resting until I have your time, she muttered, a wicked smile spreading across her face.
At JJ's captor's base.
Since JJ was taken away from his father Jack, he'd grown attached to one of the captors. Uncle, please tell me your name, he said to the man who brought his meal. The man responded, just call me Uncle T. Why do you ask? Uncle T, I love staying with you. Locking me inside here gets me so scared. Please don't leave me alone again, JJ pleaded. Uncle T smiled sadly. JJ, we had no business with you. We didn't know why your dad chose to gamble with your life. You should be at home with him, not here. Can you please tell me what you really need from my dad? If I can help talk to him, JJ's voice trailed off hopefully. Uncle T chuckled. JJ, you're acting smart already. Do you think you can help? Yes, Uncle. My dad can give me anything, JJ said, his little face brightening up. Uncle T's smile faded slightly. Your dad will give us his total cooperation when we're done with him. It's not something I can discuss with you. JJ's face grew dull. Okay, Uncle. As Uncle T was about to step out of the room, JJ called out, Please, Uncle, give me a pen and a notebook. I've missed school. Uncle T nodded. I'll try, he promised. As he stepped out, locking JJ inside the room, his mind lingered on the boy. Despite his hardened exterior, he felt a pang of sympathy. Deciding to be kind in his own small way, he resolved to bring JJ the supplies he asked for. Returning to his quarters, Uncle T rummaged through his belongings, finding an old notebook and a pen. He rushed back to JJ's room and handed him the notebook and pen. JJ's eyes lit up with gratitude. Thank you, Uncle T. You're welcome, JJ. Keep yourself busy with these, Uncle T said, ruffling the boy's hair before leaving the room. As he locked the door behind him, Uncle T couldn't help but feel a sense of responsibility for the boy. He silently vowed to protect JJ as much as he could.
Back in Sass's house.
Scott was awake, but still lying down, trying to piece together what had happened and figure out where he was. Zara was sitting in her room, updating her diary, unaware that Scott had regained consciousness. Suddenly, Sassa burst into the room. I'm wearing the pink jacket I left in your wardrobe the other time, Sassa announced, heading straight for the wardrobe. Zara's heart skipped a beat. She quickly rushed to block Sassa from seeing Scott lying unconscious on the floor. She was shocked to the bone when she discovered Scott was no longer in his hiding spot between the bed and the wardrobe. Desperately trying to maintain her composure, Zara managed to speak. Sis, have you seen the jacket? It should be beside my black one. Sasa, noticing Zara's uneasy expression, asked, "Are you okay?" Zara forced a quick smile. "Yes, I am, but I've been feeling feverish these days." Sasa nodded slowly, studying her sister's face. "That means you should go with me to the hospital for treatment." "No, sis, you know I don't like drugs. I'd rather get some sleep to relax my body. I will be fine," Zara responded hastily. Before Sasa could reply, Zara added, "There's something I need to show you in the dining room." She led Sasa out of the room and quickly closed the door behind them. As soon as they left, Scott crawled out from under the bed. His eyes widened in realization. "I never knew this girl was this dangerous," he muttered. "How did she manage to keep me here?" When Sasa and Patricia eventually left the house, Zara locked the door from inside again and hurriedly rushed back to her room. She ran to the bedside, her mind racing. To her surprise, Scott was still unconscious. Confused and wary, she approached him, wondering how he had managed to move. Summoning her courage, Zara touched him gently. "You got me scared, dummy," she whispered, her voice trembling. "It's me and you now. We have a long journey together."
At the police station.
Inspector Pella sat at the head of the table, flanked by his team and Detective Daniel. He began the meeting, his tone serious. This meeting was called to ruminate on the issue at hand and decide the way forward. It's clear that Sasa's case involves a web of strong connections. 3 of our key suspects are already dead, and Kamsi escaped from the hospital under our watch. So, what should we do? Detective Daniel nodded, his eyes narrowed in thought. "We've been searching externally for Sasa's enemies, but I think it's time we look inward. Let's concentrate our efforts on treating every member of her family as suspects. This includes her father, her mother, her twin sister, Jack her husband, and everyone related to her by blood. Remember, our prime suspects are Kamsi, her aunt, and Mrs. Tawler, her grandmother. We must ensure no stone is left unturned." One of the team members, Officer Mason, spoke up. "It's quite pathetic that this is happening to Dr. Sasa. I think Detective Daniel is right. If we can unravel the enemies within, they might help us uncover the enemies outside." Inspector Pella leaned forward, his expression determined. "So, where do we start, and how do we proceed?" Detective Daniel outlined his plan. "First, we should conduct thorough background checks on every family member. We need to look into their financial records, communications, and any unusual behavior. We should also conduct interviews to gauge their reactions and gather any useful information." Officer Mason added, "We should also increase surveillance on key suspects. If Kamsi managed to escape, she might attempt to contact her family. Any unusual activities should be flagged immediately." Another team member, Officer Claire, suggested we could use undercover operatives to get closer to the family and gather intelligence discreetly. It might reveal connections we haven't considered. Inspector Pella nodded, considering their suggestions. "These are all solid ideas. We need to be thorough and methodical. We cannot afford any more mistakes." He then concluded the meeting with a stern directive. "We must do whatever it takes to get results this time. Our priority is to ensure Sasa's safety and bring those responsible to justice. Let's get to work." Jack's captor's base. Jack finished washing the clothes and was wringing them out when a car drove into the compound. He paused and watched as an old woman stepped out of the car. The boss lady, who had given Jack orders earlier, went to greet her, warmly. "Kamsi, how are you?" "I'm fine, and thank you for the second chance," the old woman responded. The boss lady smiled. Your past record was excellent, and that's what gave you another chance. Thanks so much. I'm grateful, the old woman nodded. Jack listened intently to their conversation as he continued working in a corner of the compound. As Kamsi entered the house, the masked lady instructed her to go to the room and unmask herself. Kamsi smiled. I think I love this old face of mine. I looked so different that the detective handling my case couldn't recognize me when we walked past each other at the hospital. The boss lady laughed. Those people don't realize that we are smarter than them. We will teach them a lesson soon. Kamsi moved to the room, saying, Let me unmask myself and feel free. Jack's eyes widened with realization. The person who had just entered the house was hiding her real identity behind a mask. He shook his head in disbelief. Who could she be? She mentioned a hospital and a detective. Is she a criminal? And which hospital was she talking about? His thoughts were interrupted as he saw his guard heading towards him. Jack quickly spoke up. Thank you for fixing me up for another task. I wasn't the one who spun and ironed the clothes last time I washed. I knew you must have discussed me with the boss. The guy nodded. I just decided to help in the little way I can. I hope you will give your best. Yes, I will. Thanks so much, Jack responded. Kamsi was in a room just beside where Jack was working when her phone rang. She picked it up. Hello, sir. I'm already at location 2, with the boss lady. The man on the other end responded, You have 2 days to relax before you go for the first task. Okay, sir. Thanks so much for the second chance, Kamsi replied. Is there any new development with Sasa? The man asked. Kamsi chuckled. Sasa, my niece. The last time I checked on her, she was still unconscious. The man laughed. She's awake already, and she will be resuming work today. Kamsi chuckled again. She should beware of us. We won't relent until we win. Both smiled as they ended the call. Jack was stunned by the revelation. Was she the Kamsi Sasa had been discussing with him? Her aunt. How could she be one of her niece's enemies? The complexity of the situation deepened, and Jack knew he had to get more information about her.
At Joy's place.
Joy paced around her living room, her phone clutched tightly in her hand as she dialed Jack's number once more. Her face was etched with frustration. I told this guy not to toy with me, she muttered under her breath. Since he left here, he hasn't called to check on me. I've been calling him, and he refuses to pick up. And now my line isn't even connecting to his. Did he block my number? Or what has he done that's preventing me from reaching him? She paused, her eyes narrowing in anger. I've consciously built this future for myself, and it's time to take what belongs to me by force. Jack is mine, and I won't allow anyone, not even a rich dwarf like Sasa, to stop me from laying hold on what belongs to me. Her pacing quickened as her frustration grew. She walked into her room, her resolve hardening with every step. The future is now, she said to herself, her voice steady with determination. I will not be sidelined. Jack will be mine, no matter what I have to do to make that happen. Joy sat down, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Her mind raced with plans and schemes. I need to figure out a way to get Jack back, she thought. There has to be something I can do to make him see that I am the one he should be with, not Sasa. She picked up her phone again, scrolling through her contacts. I must do something that would catch him off guard and remind him of what we have together. Joy's eyes gleamed with determination. Yes, that's what I'll do. Jack won't know what hit him. He belongs to me, and I will not let anyone take him away from me. She stood up, her mind made up. The future is now, she repeated, heading towards the door, and I will claim what's rightfully mine.
At the hospital.
Sasa was back in her office, organizing her workspace and settling in after her absence. Once everything was in order, she headed to Hakeem's office. As she approached the door, she overheard him on the phone. Yes, she resumes today, Hakeem was saying. I'll try to keep the information away from her. I pray things go the way we want before she finds out. Just as he ended the call, Sasa stepped in. So, what's that you're keeping away from me, bro? Please start talking. Hakeem was shocked, realizing he had let the cat out of the bag. He stammered, Sasa, you're here already. Yes, I am. Please start talking, Sasa insisted. It's nothing serious, really, Hakeem replied, trying to sound casual. Just trying to ensure you're completely whole before pulling you into matters. Why is everyone insinuating this? Why do you all think I'm not fine handling issues? Sasa retorted. Hakeem, I am fine, I'm strong. It takes a strong woman like me to pull out of such unconsciousness. I'm stronger and better than ever. Hakeem looked confused, but spoke gently. You have no idea what we, your loved ones and family, went through when you were unconscious. We were the ones who experienced the fear, the pain. The experience seemed like an eternity. We almost lost our minds watching you lie there helpless. So, don't blame us when we say you can't handle it. We don't want you to go through that again. We have to protect you from anything that may affect you emotionally, physically, and mentally. Sasa nodded, her expression softening. All I'm saying is that I'm fine now. And as for what you're trying to hide from me, I already know. Hakeem's eyes widened. So, what is it? Tell me. Sasa smiled. If I get it right, you owe me my favorite suya. If I don't, I owe you your favorite meal for lunch. Hakeem nodded. If you get it, I'll buy you suya for a whole week. Sasa took a deep breath. I was told that JJ has been rescued and is on the run with Jack, and that you played a huge role in it. Hakeem tried to hide his fear and clapped for her. You just won yourself a week's worth of suya. They continued discussing various things that had happened while she was unconscious, but Hakeem intentionally kept the information about his role disguised as a policeman. When Sasa left for her office, Hakeem breathed heavily. She almost caught me off guard. How would I tell her about my conversation with Inspector Pella? How would she handle the shock that her husband and son are missing with no trace? I pray we have a breakthrough before she discovers our little secret.
At Sasa's house.
Zara was arranging her bed, muttering to herself. Having someone like Detective Scott as my personal pawn will surely boost my game against Sasa. It will make my dreams come true, she said with a sly smile. Scott, it's time to become my pawn or kiss your career goodbye. She moved closer to where Scott lay unconscious, starting to unbutton his shirt while grabbing his phone to record. Suddenly, Scott's hand shot up, gripping her wrist tightly. Not so fast, he said. Don't do anything stupid, because you are live in my office right now. Zara's face turned pale, her hands trembling. Were you pretending all this time? She asked, her voice shaky. Scott smirked. Pick up a sheet of paper and write what I dictate. We have a long journey together. Zara sneezed, trying to compose herself. I've been having a fever for some time now. Please, forgive me. It's not what you think. Scott nodded, his eyes stern. The house is already surrounded by my men. Your only option now is total cooperation. Under Scott's watchful eye, Zara wrote down everything he dictated. Afterward, Detective Scott led her out of the house and into a car waiting outside. As they drove off, Zara looked at Scott, her voice filled with desperation. "Where are you taking me?" Scott glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "We're going somewhere far away." As the car sped through the streets, Zara's mind raced with fear and regret. She realized that she was at the mercy of the detective she had tried to manipulate. At JJ's captor's base, JJ was busy writing when he heard footsteps at the door. He quickly hid his book under the bed. Uncle T walked in with a tray of food. JJ ran to hug him. "Uncle, where have you been?" Uncle T smiled. "I went to see my family. I have a little boy like you." JJ's eyes widened with curiosity. "What is his name?" "His name is Desmond," Uncle T replied, smiling. "Desmond? I had a classmate named Desmond too. It's a nice name, Uncle." Uncle T nodded. "I'm here to give you food and to ensure you are safe. So let's get back to business." JJ looked puzzled. "Why do you care about my safety? I think I should mean nothing to you." Uncle T's expression softened. "There is something we need from your parents, and keeping you safe is the only way to get it. You are more important to us than you think." JJ pondered for a moment, then asked, "Is there anything I can do to help you get it?" Their conversation was abruptly interrupted when another captor entered the room. "The boss wants to see JJ." JJ was led to the boss, who was in the middle of a meeting. The boss, a stern-looking man, addressed his team. "This is Sass's only son. I believe she will part with anything for his sake. If she refuses, we will eliminate her and still get what we want." One of the men, visibly impatient, spoke up. "We are running out of time for this assignment. I'm losing my patience." The boss reassured him. "We are close already. We are almost there." He then instructed the guard, "Take JJ back to his room and make sure he is safe." JJ was locked in his room again, but he excitedly pulled out his book and resumed writing and drawing. "I'm close," he muttered to himself, his determination unwavering.
At Sass's house,
Patricia came home to freshen up and put the house in order after ensuring that Sassa was fine and fully settled back into her job. As she entered the house, she called out, "Zara, Zara darling, I'm back home." Receiving no response, she assumed Zara might be taking a nap. She hurried to Zara's room, but it was empty. "Ah, she isn't home. That means she's fine," Patricia murmured to herself, a sense of relief washing over her. As she walked into the living room, her eyes fell on a letter on the table. Curious, she picked it up and began to read. Her eyes widened as she realized it was from Zara. "Hello, I had an urgent call for a job in Bakim City. I'll also be staying for the interview, which is scheduled for next week. My friend, who works at the company, assured me I would get the job, and I will be staying with her for a while. If you call and my number doesn't connect, it's due to network issues in that area. I will definitely call you whenever I can. See you soon. Goodbye." Patricia smiled and nodded. "I pray she gets this job, so she can stay busy and engaged." At the hospital, Sassa was in her office, chatting with a friend on her phone, when a nurse knocked and entered. "Nurse, how can I help you?" Sassa asked, putting her phone aside. "You have a guest, Mum. Her name is Joy," the nurse said. "Send her in," Sassa replied, curious. Joy stepped into the office, smiling. It's been a long time, Sasa. Sasa looked up, beaming with excitement. Joy, Joy, good to see you again. Please, have a seat. How are you? I'm very fine. And how's your family? Joy asked as she sat down. My family's doing great, Sasa responded with a bright smile. When did you come back to the country? Joy sighed. Coming back to this country is quite difficult because I had no reason to be here. My immediate family stays in England, and since my parents are dead, I have no reason to visit the country. Remember, I'm an only child. Sasa chuckled. The only legitimate orphan I know. Both smiled, trying to catch up on old times. Joy continued, I came for a deal and thought it wise to check on you. I wish to stay with you if your husband would permit me. Sasa nodded. The house is yours. My husband has no issue with my friends coming around. Ah, thanks so much, Sasa. You're always kind. How's your twin sister? Joy asked, trying to sound casual. Sasa smiled. You would sure spend most of your time with her. She's in my house. Joy, trying to hide her surprise, said, Oh, okay. That would be nice. They continued reminiscing about old times, sharing stories and laughter, their bond evident despite the years apart. Joy's presence seemed to bring a sense of warmth and nostalgia, reminding Sasa of simpler times. As their conversation flowed, Sasa felt a mix of joy and unease. She was happy to reconnect but couldn't shake the feeling that something important was left unsaid. Joy's sudden reappearance and request to stay with her hinted at underlying motives.
At Sasa's house.
Patricia was in the living room when Sasa and Joy arrived home, carrying a luggage bag. Hello, Mom. How are you? Sasa greeted warmly. Patricia turned to them, slightly surprised. You decided to come home today. I thought you said you were staying at the staff quarters for this month. And who is this beautiful woman? Joy smiled and greeted Patricia again. Sasa responded, She's my friend, Joy. We were together long before we both got married. She hasn't been in the country for a while, but she's here for business and will be staying with me. Patricia gave a weak smile. You are welcome, my darling. How is your family? We're good, ma'am. Thanks so much, Joy replied. Sasa led Joy to a guest room and told her to make herself comfortable. Patricia, however, felt uneasy about the arrangements, but didn't know how to voice her concerns. The deed is done, she muttered to herself. As soon as Joy locked the door behind her, she smiled and said to herself, I'm face to face with my future, and I promise I won't let it slip out of my hands again, never again. Meanwhile, Patricia was with Sasa in her room. You shouldn't have brought a total stranger into your house, especially now when you don't know who is who. It's quite dangerous, Patricia said, her voice full of concern. Sasa smiled reassuringly. Joy isn't a stranger, Mom. She was one of my trusted friends years back. We lost contact when she got married and travelled abroad, even before I got married to Jack. Patricia cut in, all I'm saying is, it's not safe to allow an old friend in, at this time when everyone looks like a suspect, an enemy. Okay, Mom, I'll be careful and thoughtful next time. But Joy is a good friend of mine, Sasa said, trying to soothe her mother's worries. Patricia handed Zara's letter to Sasa. I found this on the table in the living room when I came back yesterday. Sasa read through the letter and frowned. How could she travel like that without telling anybody? She should have called before leaving the house. I accepted Joy because I thought Zara would be around to keep her company. What should I do now? Patricia shook her head. How long is Joy staying here? I don't know, Mom. It would look somehow if I asked her that kind of question. Or should I ask her to come with me to the staff quarters? Patricia sighed. There must be a way out. We can't keep a stranger in the house all alone. No, we won't do that. Invite her to the living room. Let's have a talk with her. Sasa knocked on Joy's door and, without waiting for an answer, opened it and went inside. She was surprised to see that the room had been rearranged and transformed, with Joy's photo frames already placed around. Sasa stammered, "You've placed your photos everywhere already." Joy smiled. "I can't actually relax and be comfortable in a house where there is no picture of mine. I'm sorry if you feel bad about this, but I will definitely remove them when I'm leaving." Sasa nodded slowly. "I and my mom want to speak with you in the living room." "Does your mom stay here with you?" Joy asked, surprised. "Yes, she does. I want her around me," Sasa said. "Wow, that's a big one. You are a baby wife, baby madam, I swear. I don't think I could cope with such," Joy said with a weak smile. Sasa laughed. "You can go ahead and tease me. I like it like that anyway." They both headed to the living room, where Patricia was waiting. Patricia gave Joy a measured look, then smiled. "Let's talk about your stay here, Joy. I want to make sure everyone is comfortable and safe." Joy nodded, sitting down. "Of course, Mrs. Patricia. I appreciate your hospitality and understand your concerns." Patricia continued, "Staying here is not an issue, that everyone seems busy right now, and we are trying to fix you in our plans. So you need to prepare your mind to flow with our agenda for you. I hope you understand." "Absolutely, ma'am. I will do my best to respect your house and your rules," Joy replied sincerely. Sasa felt a sense of relief as the tension in the room eased slightly. She hoped that with time, her mother would warm up to Joy, and that their old friendship could ease up some tension around her.
At JJ's captor's base.
JJ was staring at his book, smiling, when Uncle T entered the room with his meal. "Why are you smiling, JJ?" Uncle T asked, startling JJ, who quickly tried to hide his notebook. Fear was written all over his face. "When did you come in, Uncle?" JJ asked, his voice trembling. Uncle T smiled warmly and moved closer. "Just now. What are you hiding there?" JJ hesitated, his eyes wide with anxiety. "No, Uncle, you would take it from me." Uncle T spoke gently. "I just want to look at it, that's all. I want to see what makes you so excited this morning." JJ slowly stretched the notebook out to him. "Promise me you won't seize it from me." "Promise, I won't," Uncle T assured him. Uncle T's eyes widened with amazement as he saw a well-crafted drawing of himself in the notebook. "You drew this?" he asked, astonished. JJ nodded, his face still full of fear. "Yes, Uncle, I did." Uncle T flipped through the pages and saw more drawings, including one of his boss with his friends. "You even drew my boss and his friends. This is incredible, JJ," he said, genuinely impressed. "Boss must see this." JJ managed a small smile, unsure of what Uncle T's reaction would be. "Thank you, Uncle. Are you sure he won't be mad at me?" Uncle T shook his head. "I'm sure of that, JJ. My boss loves artwork. In fact, none of his own artwork looks as perfect as this. You are a genius, boy." JJ sighed in relief. "Thanks, Uncle." Uncle T placed the notebook gently back in JJ's hands. "Just calm down and eat your food. I'll show this to my boss when he comes back. He'll be impressed, I promise." As JJ started to eat, Uncle T sat beside him, watching over the young boy with a thoughtful expression.
At Jack's captor's base.
The boss lady gathered all her men for an urgent meeting. Her voice was firm as she addressed them. None of you should disclose Jack's identity to anyone. I don't even want the boss to know he's here with me, so everyone must stay quiet about it. One of the men, looking slightly puzzled, spoke up. The boss didn't even know him. We've been the ones meeting him on his behalf. That sounds great, the boss lady said with a satisfied nod. I have my plans and my reasons for this, so all of you should play along with me if you don't want to lose your heads. Understood, boss, they responded in unison. One of the guys, thoughtful for a moment, raised a hand. Should we also change his name to give him a new identity? It might help kill any curiosity when people hear Jack. The boss lady considered this and then nodded. That's a good idea. Henceforth, address him as Dan. The men nodded, committing the new directive to memory. As they dispersed, the boss lady stood alone, deep in thought. She knew the importance of keeping Jack's real identity a secret. Too much was at stake, and one slip could unravel everything. Her plan had to be executed perfectly, and for that, Jack or Dan, as he was now to be called, had to remain hidden and his true identity concealed. Outside, where Jack was washing clothes, the guard in charge of Jack approached him as he was wringing out a shirt. There is a new development about you, the guard said. Jack's eyes widened with concern. I've been giving my best to all the assignments given to me. I haven't done anything wrong. The guard nodded reassuringly. Of course, yes. You haven't done anything wrong, only that the boss is changing your name to Dan. So, going forward, you will be addressed as Dan. Is that understood? Jack, now Dan, nodded slowly. Yes, my name is Dan. The guard patted him on the shoulder. Good, just keep doing your tasks, and everything will be fine. As the guard walked away, Jack couldn't help but ponder the implications of this new identity. Why the sudden change? What was the boss lady planning? He knew he had to be careful, now more than ever.
On the highway.
Zara and Scott were driving along a deserted highway, the landscape around them changing from city outskirts to open fields and sparse trees. Zara, growing increasingly uneasy, glanced at Scott, her voice tinged with anxiety. Where are we going? We've been on the highway 4 hours now. I thought you were taking me to the police station, but we're already at the outskirts of town. Scott, his eyes on the road, offered a small, enigmatic smile. You promised me a long journey, and it was long indeed. So it's my turn to take you on a long journey as well. Stop complaining and just enjoy it while it lasts. Zara managed a quick, nervous smile. Though I feel safe with you, I'm scared of this long journey. Where are we going? Please talk to me. Scott nodded, his tone becoming more serious. I also felt safe with you, but you betrayed that trust and made me lose consciousness 4 hours. However, I won't betray your trust if you give me your total cooperation. Zara sighed, her fear evident. I still don't know what you want from me. Scott, what if I'm not the right person we're supposed to arrest? Scott glanced at her, his expression thoughtful. You're still on point, Zara. That means you'll help me get the right person. The letter you made me leave at home would give them no trace of me. Are you kidnapping me? This endless journey is scaring me, Zara said, her voice shaking. Kidnapped, far from it, Scott replied, shaking his head. I can't betray my friend Jack. I'm not a betrayer, but watch me unfold my plans for you. Zara's heart pounded as she tried to process Scott's words. What plans? What are you going to do? Scott took a deep breath. Zara, you're going to help me uncover the truth. I need information, and you're in the perfect position to provide it. I want to know everything about Sasa, her enemies, and what you know about the ongoing situation. Zara looked at him, her fear mixed with confusion. Why should I trust you? How do I know you won't turn me in once you get what you want? Scott's gaze softened slightly, because, Zara, I believe there's more to you than meets the eye. If you help me, I can ensure your safety and maybe even clear your name, but you have to be honest with me. Zara considered his words, weighing her options. The fear in her eyes slowly gave way to a glimmer of hope. All right, Scott, I'll help you. But please, let's not make this journey longer than it needs to be. Scott nodded. We were going somewhere, and we would arrive there. Remember, nobody had any trace of you, so help yourself by giving me your full cooperation. Zara nodded, only that it's very difficult.
At Sasa's house.
Sasa had gone to work, leaving Patricia and Joy at home. Despite her efforts to be a gracious host, Patricia couldn't shake her suspicion of Joy. Joy, maybe you should come join me here, so the house won't be boring for both of us, Patricia called out. Okay, madam. I will join you shortly, Joy responded from inside. A few minutes later, Joy joined Patricia in the living room, smiling warmly. Thank you, Ma, for the hospitality. You have been so kind. You're welcome, my darling, Patricia replied. I hope you're enjoying your stay. Yes, Ma, Joy said. Then added, I haven't seen Jack and JJ since I arrived. Did they travel? Patricia nodded slowly, uncertain whether to discuss such a sensitive matter with Joy. Sensing the hesitation, Joy quickly intervened. No problem, Ma, if it's not safe to discuss it with me. Patricia, relieved, stammered, nothing serious, actually. Joy smiled and shifted the conversation. What about Zara? Patricia answered. She got a job and traveled for the interview. Joy coughed lightly. I need some juice. Do you care for some as well? Patricia nodded. Please serve us. A glass of it would be fine for me. Joy went inside to get the drinks, slipping a sleeping tablet into Patricia's glass before returning to the living room. She handed Patricia her glass and began sipping her own. Patricia set her glass on the table and remarked, I love the sandals you wore yesterday when you arrived. Could you get them for me so I can snap a photo? I want to buy a pair like them. Joy smiled. Okay, Ma, I'll get them immediately. A few minutes later, she returned with the sandals. Patricia took her time to snap the photos of the sandals. Surprisingly, when she looked up, Joy was already dozing off. Joy, are you sleepy? Patricia asked, but Joy couldn't respond and soon fell into a deep sleep. Patricia smiled, muttering to herself, So you drugged my drink, in my daughter's house. What are you up to? What are you looking for? If I hadn't exchanged the glasses, I would have been the one drugged. Patricia paced around the living room, her heart pounding. She couldn't believe what had just happened. With trembling hands, she dialed Sasa's number, keeping a vigilant eye on the sleeping Joy.
At JJ's captor's base.
JJ's heart leapt with excitement as he noticed the boss's car pulling into the compound. He clasped his hands together and whispered a prayer. God, please let him allow me to draw him. Please, God. An hour later, Uncle T entered JJ's room with a serious expression. The boss wants to see you, he said. JJ's eyes lit up. Should I bring my notebook? Uncle T nodded, smiling reassuringly. Yes, JJ. I've already told him about your drawings. Let's go. As they entered the boss's office, JJ held his breath. The boss looked through the notebook, his expression changing from curiosity to amazement. So, you drew this? He asked, his eyes wide. Yes, sir, JJ replied, trying to keep his voice steady. Wow, you just won my heart, the boss said, impressed. JJ smiled shyly. Thank you so much, sir. Turning to Uncle T, the boss instructed, you need to get him proper materials. I want my artwork in a frame. This is something else. He's incredibly talented. Uncle T nodded. Yes, boss. JJ was escorted back to his room. As soon as the door shut behind him, he allowed himself a triumphant smile. I did it, he whispered to himself. Just watch me as I unveil my plans. He sat down with his notebook again. His eyes narrowed. He knew he was one step closer to his goal.
Next on the Mysterious Twins.
She picked up her phone and dialed Scott's number, her impatience growing with each ring. Hello, Scott. How far with my sister? Has she said anything? Scott's voice was steady on the other end. She's still proving stubborn, but don't worry, she will talk eventually. Sasa frowned, her frustration bubbling over. Torture her, if need be, she snapped. She must mention everyone involved in the plot against me. I don't care what happens to her. I want to enjoy my life without looking over my shoulder. This nonsense must stop now.